Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host of this channel. A big thank you will always go to my patrons as per normal, and I'll also just remind my new viewers to subscribe to me and like this video if you enjoy my content. Today's video is going to be a very big one. I'll be predicting the World Cup squad for France, the host nation of the 2023 World Cup. It's going to be very exciting to see what they can do to entertain their home fans at Stade de France for the opener against the All Blacks, and of course into the knockout stages where they are amongst the favourites for the title alongside Ireland and South Africa. There's going to be quite a bit of a interesting take, I think, going into this World Cup from the coaches. Compared to previous French outfits, there's no more French flair where something's just going to happen out of nowhere after they get beat for pretty much the whole game. This is possibly the most settled squad like in French rugby history, this one here, so I don't actually think we're going to see a ridiculous amount of changes to the team going into the World Cup squad. I do think that the depth chart, which I'll make a video on later on, is going to have a significant impact on who sits where in the pecking order, and it will very much determine a lot of these picks. To start off with the hookers, it's obviously going to be Julian Marchand at hooker. The Toulouse man, he's been their captain for a wee while, very strong over the ball, a great line-out thrower, and of course, as a key member of that team's leadership group, it's pretty safe to say he's going to be going. Piato Malvaca is going to be his impact player off the bench, of course, as well. Malvaca is 124 kgs. He's a big unit that will absolutely smash the opposing defenders backwards when he is front foot ball, and with 21 test caps at 26 years old, he's starting to reach that peak of his career at a perfect time. Malvaca got the trust from the coaches very early on, and it's paying off very much now. As the 9 and 10 are a Toulouse combo as well, it makes sense that Marchand will be replaced by one of his club level teammates so that cohesion can go throughout the full 80. Now the third choice hooker I think will probably be Gaëtan Barlow. I hope I'm getting his name pronunciation correctly. Pierre Bergerie appeared to be one of the early choices throughout the World Cup cycle, but throughout this latest Six Nations, Barlow has really just proven his worth off the bench, and at 25 years old, he's not ridiculously young that it's going to be a bad idea to throw him in. After 7 test caps, he is starting to look like he fits this team and he's a good part of it. He plays from Castres, so I'm unsure how it's going to go for combination building in regards to the third choice players. Hopefully those third choice guys can get a bit of a decent go together before the World Cup. Barlow really just established his spot during this recent Six Nations. Bergerie was injured, as was Malvaca. I'm not 100% sure when Bergerie is going to come back, so that's why I've gone with this young fella over here. Now we'll go over the props. It's pretty obvious that Cyril Baille is going to go. Very experienced, 43 tests at 29 years old, and he used to play in the back as a kid, so wow, he's just so exciting to watch. He dominates the scrum, and a lot of people really do rate him as the world's best loose head prop. I think the likes of Stephen Kitsoff are better players, but Baille, you really just cannot pick anybody else to start in that number 1 jersey for the French. He is a phenomenal player. We now go over to Jean-Baptiste Gros. He did miss this whole Six Nations, but if there's anyone that I'm willing to use as a backup option for Baille, it is going to be Gros. He's one of the Toulon boys, one of the guys that's at one of those international clubs, but they always bring a bit of flair into the game, and at 23 years old, he is starting to get a bit of experience with 21 test caps to his name as well. He's very much looking to be the future of that number 1 jersey over in France, so I'm expecting him to go. I do think though that Rida Wardy may be used as an impact player on the bench instead. Wardy only just recently made his test debut, but his 7 test caps have came in very quick succession, and with a low centre of gravity and a high work rate, I do think he's proven himself worthy of a spot at the World Cup. He doesn't have a heck of a lot of a test experience at 27 years old, but I think he is a good age where you're not going to throw him into a baptisms of fire. He's not going to take his spot for granted either. He's just going to do his job very well. Winnie Antonio starting at tight head prop, that's a no-brainer as well. With 50 tests, the 33-year-old is one of the only surviving members from the 2015 World Cup that's left over. Antonio's got great ball handling skills. He's a ferocious carrier, and he's also 6'5", and he's just trims down to 147 kgs from 152. Born here in New Zealand, Zealand. He's thrived in the French environment, and as just one of the two 2015 survivors, as I mentioned, his experience is going to be irreplaceable. However, though, I do think Demba Bamba will go over Mohamed Hawass. Mohamed Hawass has proven time and time again that he doesn't have the discipline for test level, and that he also doesn't have the same discipline off field either. Bamba is a much less controversial pick. At 24 years old, he's already got 25 test caps. 124 kg weight is going to be very handy in the scrum, and he's also been to a World Cup already in 2019 where he did very well over there. Bamba's one of my favourite players in the team, and as a guy who's not going to give away daft penalties, I do think he's in for a spot at this World Cup. Sapili Falatia is going to be a third loose head prop, I'd say. He's really shown his ability as an impact player, similar to Wardy, and at 1.83 meters, they're a very similar height to each other, so can be used in a very good combination there, rather, off the bench. The Bordeaux player will be going in for sure, I do believe that wholeheartedly. Now we get over to the locks. Cameron Woki, he did miss the Six Nations due to injury. As far as I'm aware though, he will be back in time for the World Cup, and that is going to be excellent. He's a phenomenal, freakish athlete with just such a high work ethic on and off the ball as well. He hits so many rucks throughout that game. He's an awesome line-out jumper, very effective at 6'5". He could possibly do to put on a little bit more muscle, but at 24 years old, he's going to be very, very good by the time the World Cup comes along. He's starting to reach that prime of his career now, and when you mix his youth with the experience of Paul Willemse, you cannot go wrong. Willemse got ignored by the Springboks, though he played at under 20s level for South Africa. So in 2019, he made his debut for France and hasn't looked back since. At 6'7" and 128 kgs, he's just raw beef and power that can smash his opponents backwards. He will hit those rucks and secure the front foot ball for you, whereas he will dominate the lineout with his height. And another experienced player, Romain Taufifenua, will provide some amazing cover off the bench. Being a player with that frame isn't going to allow Willemse to play the full 80, so Taufifenua regularly substitutes off the bench for Willemse, and as far as I can see, Taufifenua also made his test debut the earliest of any of these current players I've got. With 43 tests to his name at 32 years old, he's really looking to get himself a good send-off from test level, and hopefully he can receive that indeed. Now Thibaut Flemmont has definitely secured his place as the fourth lock. Maybe he's even leapfrogged Woki for all we know. Either way, all four of these locks will definitely get a go in a match day 23 with just two backs on the bench. Flemmont played every single minute of the Six Nations and really showed his worth, scoring 3 tries in the competition. At 6'8", he's got a little bit more of that height that Woki doesn't quite have, and he's also a little bit heavier thanks to that height. Just 16 test caps, but is really starting to look the goods at test level. Lock, I was very unsure about this position for France ahead of the Six Nations, but Flemmont has stabilised that, and he has made it clear that these are the 4 locks they will be taking to the World Cup. Nobody else is getting in the door. They've kept so many players in this position, and these 4, they are here to stay. We now get over to the loose forwards. Francois Cross, the open side flanker. I believed it was pronounced as Crow, but a few people have told me it's Cross in the comments, so I'm going to say Francois Cross. Very low centre of gravity, which is always good for winning the turnovers. He's been a machine at slowing that ruck ball for opposition to give France that head start on defence. With 20 test caps at 29 years old, he's not crazy experienced, but it's always good to have the experience regardless of how many caps they have. They kind of need him in there for that reason, especially with Anthony Gelonche out of the World Cup due to injury, which means I do think Dylan Creton will be getting a spot once he's back from injury. Don't have too much to say about him because he always comes off the bench for not very long periods, but the fact that he can cover all 3 loose forward position will ensure himself on the plane back home to France for this tournament. Charles Olivon, the Toulon man, the former captain, he's going to be so crucial on the blind side as well. 29 years old, he'll want to give himself a good go, as this may possibly be his last World Cup should he he have his injury luck come back to haunt him again. At 6'6", he's no slouch, and he definitely helps that line out with Woki at 6'5". Olivon's just an incredible player with a high try scoring rate, great communication, and even though he's no longer captain, he will be very, very important for getting things going up front. Sekou Makalu can play pretty much every position from wing to centre to 6, 7 and 8. He's played in all those jerseys for France. It's been ridiculous to see how many he's covered. The Stade Francais man will be in the team for sure, I guarantee that, especially with his availability to dominate the line out. Gregory Aldrit, it'll be his second World Cup at just 26 years old. A lot of people seems to think he was the captain when Olivon was out because he's a very good leader for La Rochelle, and with 39 test caps to his name already, he's got a lot of experience for a young man. Yohan Tanga is possibly going to get his way into the team with Jalonch's injury as well. He's played just 2 test caps at 26 years old. I don't know a crazy amount about him, but he's very strong, so hopefully they have got the right answer as their second choice number 8. Now that I've covered the forward pack, we'll roll an ad break, everybody. The captain, Antoine Dupont at number 9. Everyone knows it's coming. He is going to be a beast for the home World Cup. He will have 50 test caps to his name by that point, as he's already on 47. He played nearly every single minute of the Six Nations until Maxime Lucu came back from injury, and at 26 years old, he's already starting to look like France's greatest ever halfback. A little guy, but he won World Player of the Year in 2021, probably would have got a nomination in 2020 had they had a ceremony, with the award going to Cheslin Kolbe, and he was also nominated again in 2022's World Rugby calendar. This Six Nations, he has been nominated for player of the tournament. I'm not sure the votes will be out by the time this video's out, but man, Dupont's amazing. Maxime Lucu as well from Bordeaux. He will be very good in combination with the backup 10. He's the backup 9 himself. At 30 years old, he was somewhat of a journeyman for much of his career before that. Fabien Galthié seems to just spot him out of nowhere. He played just his second test cap in that win against the All Blacks, looked very composed, and should Dupont go down injured, well, you need an experienced player to manage the team, and Maxime Lucu, I think, is the only player that Fabien Galthié trusts in that role. Baptiste Quilou, it will be possible that they will pick a third halfback, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be him because he has captained France before, though he's played 11 test caps only. He's actually played more minutes than Lucu in the Galthié era, courtesy of a few starts early on in the tenure, so I think he's a pretty safe bet, though game time will be very, very limited for him during the competition. And Romain Ntamack, 23 years old. The dude's the same age as me. He will be going to a second World Cup with 36 test caps under his belt. I shouldn't have to say much more about Romain Ntamack. If not for guys like Jaminet and Ramos, he'd probably be France's highest point scorer in history already. He's already got 150 or so points to his name. He's just peerless when it comes to game management. No one else in the country can touch him aside from Mathieu Jalibert. An extended run at 10 in 2021 made Jalibert essentially say, without speaking it to the coaches, I am the only player you can trust to back up Ntamack with. And so Jalibert's had a few minutes in other positions as well. He covered fullback against Ireland for some odd reason, while against Australia in 2021, Ntamack started at 12 with Jalibert covering at 10. Jalibert is such a talent who would be starting for pretty much every other country, so he'll be in for sure. Now the midfield. Jonathan Danty, the crucial third playmaker that also has the size to win turnovers at the breakdown, really just plugs that hole with the fact that they haven't quite caught on to the trend of decently sized fullbacks, that French team, so Danty will be in for sure. I believe it's also his first World Cup as well, as he missed 2019 due to injury. He's essentially what Mathieu Bastareaud could have been had Bastareaud had decent discipline, so Jonathan Danty will be very important, especially in combination with Gaël Fickou, the most important player for the team. Dupont's able to manage the game so well because Fickou, I don't even have words to say about the dude. He can do everything. Kicking, attacking, defending. He is the defensive captain, and he is the only surviving back from the 2015 Rugby World Cup. He made his debut for France at just 18 years old and has 79 test caps at 29 years old. He's just an absolute freak, man. Galthié will be in the squad for sure, and Euro Moefana, expect him to get a few minutes in the pool stages as well. He's 22 years old, has 16 test caps already, and he'll be looking forward to join his uncle Falatia in the team. Moefana's from Willis and Futuna, so really did well to get to the mainland after all that time. Moefana is a freak with ball in hand as well. Hopefully he can improve his defense a little bit in time for the tournaments, but aside from those three, no one else has really got a decent share of minutes in the midfield, so I'm suspecting maybe Pierre-Louis Barassi, who made his debut at the previous World Cup, could lock himself in for a spot. He's just played 3 tests, but he has experienced a World Cup before, so maybe he will be the answer. We now get to the outside backs. I do think Gabon Villiers will be able to get himself a recall should he recover from injury. At 27 years old, he's not going to be past it by any means, and he's a winger that can literally win turnovers. He's beautiful to watch on attack, so I do think a shot at the World Cup will be possible. Ethan Dumortier though, he has taken that starting jersey, I believe. He looked very good throughout the Six Nations, and he's just 22 years old. They do need a bit of the unexpected still, though France have built their team around combination building at last, rather than just whoever's in form for a World Cup as previous outfits used to do. So I do think Dumortier as a clone of Damien Penaud will be on the plane. Speaking of the Clermont man, Damien Penaud, the centre that gets used on the wing, he's in the team for sure. He got 8 tries at test level in 2022. He was the top point scorer of international rugby in terms of try scored, I meant to say. And the 2023 Six Nations, he spoiled the party for Hugh Jones, and he scored 5 tries himself to be the leading try scorer. He is about to be one of the highest try scorers in French history as he gets very close to breaking the barrier of 30 tries. He's got 42 test caps at just 26 years old. He is a once in a generation talent, and if he's not fit for the World Cup, it will be blind robbery that the audience just do not get to see, and that'll be an absolute shame. Now over to the fullbacks. Tomás Ramos was one of the youthful players for 2019's tournament, and now he's just blossomed into this amazing manager of the game with a beautiful kicking game. He was the top point scorer of the 2023 Six Nations by some distance. I truly believe he deserves to be player of the tournament for that effort, and the fact that he plays for Toulouse alongside Intermac, Dupont and Marchand makes it very easy for him to slot into the team's spine. Though Melvin Jaminet, a younger player, has played more minutes in the position across the Galthié era, Jaminet just didn't seem to get too much of a share of the depth chart during the Six Nations. As a player who can cover 10, I think that's why Galthié might only take 2 fly halves to the tournament. Jaminet, I love watching him, but with Tomás Ramos in such supreme form right now, there's pretty much just a duopoly on the 15 jersey for France. I'm going to finish off the prediction video here, guys. This is the 33-man French squad I believe Fabien Galthié will take back home for the 2023 Rugby World Cup after the 2019 effort in Japan, where he was the assistant coach. With a lot of experienced players from 2019, 2 survivors from 2015 and Antoine Dupont as captain, perhaps they could end up winning. I'll save that for another day though, because I have to get a video recorded about how Ireland won the 2023 Six Nations, so stay tuned for that. A big thanks to my patrons once again. If you want to support me elsewhere, you can head to Instagram, Twitter and my opinion journalism website, or if you just want to make a one-off donation, you can go to my PayPal tip jar. Thank you very much for watching the video, guys. It's been my pleasure, and I'm signing out. Cheers guys, from Max.